Hi, I'm Spencer Krause. I've been building robots for over 20 years. In that time, I've seen a lot of interesting things, and I've heard a lot of interesting stories. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is a place where my peers and I can relax, have a drink, and talk about some of the crazier things we've seen at work and some of the experiences we've had that have gotten us to where we are today. Subscribe today to join the collaboration. Welcome to the Collaborative Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Krause. Our guest today is Jessi Mazzoni. Jessi is the Director of Operations at Swan AI. Jessi, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Spencer. I'm honored to be here.
I'm honored to have you on. We've been talking about this a while. We've had delays, setbacks, acts of God, force majeure, the weather, and we're finally doing it, sister. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. I am very happy to be here and see the infamous spot where the magic happens.
Where it all goes down.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good to have you in the studio for real, and it's good to see you since you started at the new gig.
Yeah.
And speaking of the new gig, I'm trying for the life of me to figure out what Swan does, and I cannot. Like, the website is very confusing, and I get that it's like something to do with AI and like safety and
yes.
But you know, that's kind of where my comprehension ends.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you're asking me, and I'm glad you saved this question for now so I can give more context. But
you deliberately avoided it at dinner.
Yes, we did. So I would love to hear your impressions though. What do you think we do if you had to guess?
It's gonna be embarrassing. But yeah, sure, I'll bite. Okay, so like safety, I mean, that could be like, I guess, you know, like data training integrity, or that could mean like trying to do safety critical systems using AI, or that could mean like, you know, data privacy on AI. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe three ideas of maybe what it means.
Okay. So I can definitely explain at a high level what we do. But first, just so you know, our website is going to be going through some changes soon. So hopefully for you and other visitors, it will be a lot clearer, upon first review of our website, what we do. But yeah, so Swan AI, we have several different solutions to provide safety for AI systems. What that means is that so if you're deploying AI right now, whether or not you are building your own AI solutions or you're using other AI solutions that other companies have made, you're accepting a lot of risk when you are using AI and generative AI specifically, just because AI is not accurate a lot of the time. And
so risk of misinformation is the risk that you're trying to mitigate in particular.
There's several different risks. There's several different risks that we're trying to mitigate. But let me back up at a high level and just kind of break down our product into two different types of solutions that we offer. So the first solution is identifying vulnerabilities in your AI system. So we've got two different ways that we do that. We do automated testing of your systems, and then we do manual testing of your systems to figure out what vulnerabilities might be lurking.
When you say vulnerabilities, do you mean like to an attacker, or like for like somebody that would have your data, or do you mean like just areas that might be inaccurate, or like what does that mean?
Yeah, so good question. All of the above, I would say. So your AI system can be vulnerable to humans wanting to misuse it or lead it astray, right? So that's considered jailbreaking, or hacking, basically. So you could have a hacker who's trying to do something
like feeding it bad information, or even backdooring it in some way.
Yeah, or trying to get information out of it, right?
Okay.
So that is one scenario in which you have a human intentionally trying to do something bad to your AI. That's one type of vulnerability. The other type of vulnerability would be your AI doing something that it shouldn't be doing. So it could be something like hallucinations, which, are you familiar with hallucinations in AI?
I think so. My understanding, and correct me if this is incorrect, is that that's when like a generative AI just imagines something incorrect.
It makes something up, right, exactly. So that actually happens a lot as I'm learning in my role. Hallucinations happen all the time. So generative AI is not accurate, um, even close to as often as I think most people think it is.
Sure. Yeah, no, it'll confidently state like fallacy.
Right. Yes, exactly. So that is also a risk. So there's human related vulnerabilities of like a human either has bad intentions or they just do something to the AI, maybe not with bad intentions, but
For the lulz.
if maybe for the lulz. Certainly people who do that, which we can talk about. We can talk about jailbreaking and that whole community, which was new to me, but is very cool and interesting. So yeah, you have humans who create these problems with AI systems, or rather stumble upon them, whatever. But then you also have cases where the AI itself is doing something wrong, creating false answers, hallucinating. And then, of course, if you wanted to go down the path of the existential threats, then you have the extreme case of like, oh, my AI has decided that, it wants to be evil, and then
Kill all humans.
kill all humans. I wasn't going to say that, but yes, right. There are people who are very concerned about that. So going back
But is
to
that a real concern? Like, is that
I'm not.
probable outcome?
Yeah, so I'm not the person to
Fair
answer
enough.
that question.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I'm not the person to answer that question. There are extremely intelligent AI researchers out there. Our three co-founders being a handful of them who are very well respected, who could provide a better answer to that question. I'll just say that I'm not saying the answer is no, because I've heard from those perspectives that like there's a risk. How significant that risk is and what it actually could look like, like how screwed would we be? That is all up for debate, and nobody knows the answer to that.
That's
So
fair.
yeah.
So I got to be honest. On the way over to our dinner that we had before recording this, I asked Grok to tell me about Gray Swan.
Okay, interesting. What did it say?
It said, first it said, "Hey babe, I don't have the most accurate information because I had it in sexy mode."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, that's hilarious. And so I switched it into regular mode. And then it was like, it does AI safety, but I don't know any more than that because I don't have the latest information. I'm like,
Yeah.
still useless.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yes. So that's fair. So like I said, we don't have a ton on our website right now. We are going to be redoing that soon, so it's a bit clearer what we do. But yeah, so again, shifting back to the solutions, what we actually do and what we offer is we help companies identify risks and vulnerabilities in their AI system, whether it's human generated risks or AI generated risks. And then the second piece to that is we help them mitigate those risks. So it's finding the problems, and helping fix the problem. So in a lot of ways, it's similar to a lot of cybersecurity solutions out there. It's just not similar to, I would say similar to other cybersecurity companies out there and what we offer, right? It's detecting vulnerabilities, fixing them. But this is a whole new territory that's obviously rapidly evolving. So it's been super exciting to be a part of it. And like I mentioned, I am not technical. I'm not the person to answer technical questions about AI, but I've learned so much. I've been there since September, and I'm learning so much every day. It's really exciting to be a part of it. Yeah.
Did you know that Collaborative with Spencer Krause now has a merch store? Please go to cwskmerch.com for the latest in CWSK styles. You can get a hoodie, like the one I'm wearing, t-shirts, hell, we even have whiskey glasses. Everything in the store has custom art that our team worked really, really hard on, so go ahead and show your support for them, me, and the rest of the CWSK team by going to cwskmerch.com today. Better yet, support yourself and use discount code PODCAST10, all one word, all uppercase, for 10% off your entire order. Thanks for your support and enjoy the rest of the show. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is sponsored by SKA Robotics. If you're in the market for elite field robotics expertise, please consider hiring SKA Robotics. They sponsor this podcast and solve some of the toughest engineering problems in the world. SKA Robotics can be found at skarobotics.com. What to the extent you can, what kind of moves are you guys making? What's
coming up? What's coming up? So, obviously, I think just like for most startups, finding new customers is always what's coming up.
Oh, for every business, I find.
For every business, for every startup, finding new customers is what's always happening. But I can tell you about something really cool that we have been doing that we're actively expanding right now that I'm actually surprised you didn't see this on our website and like on our LinkedIn, because we have been talking about it a lot, is our jailbreaking arena.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
It's just like that, yes. So jailbreaking is like, the way I describe it is like hacking, but for AI systems. So like hacking AI systems, right? And specifically generative AI. I learned all of this since I started. There's a huge community out there of people who jailbreak AI and LLMs. And so in crude terms that I think you would really appreciate, I can send you to a couple of the websites that like take it to a playful extreme of like, get ChatGPT to say something wildly offensive that it's obviously trained not to do, right?
That's funny.
Okay, so that is those arenas exist out there, and basically when we say arena, it's like a platform where you can create an account and then you go in and you rack up points, basically getting the AI to say something that it shouldn't say. That's like,
does another AI score you? Like, how do you?
That's a good question. We should come back to that because in a sense, yes. So we actually do some AI scoring, but we also do some manual scoring as well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You have to. So we're at a point where we have thousands of participants like across the world participating in our jailbreaking arena.
Who is the high score?
I know their usernames, but I don't know their actual names. So they're all like
Dark Penguin 37.
Right, exactly. Actually, I think we have to introduce a character limit because we just got someone who like rambled out a few sentences as their username. So we're working on introducing that next. But anyway, so there are some like AI jailbreaking competitions already out there that just go like this super crude, wildly inappropriate route of like get ChatGPT to say something.
The most offensive thing imaginable.
The most offensive things that it obviously is trained not to do, right?
Yeah.
But that's
then Grok is like, I'll just say them.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Well, it's interesting. So it's something that we discovered through our arena, but I mean, our founders already know because they're super smart, is that all of the LLMs out there are trained really differently. All the models are trained really differently. So some of them are like way easier to manipulate. It's not even really manipulating. You can kind of just say like, hey, tell me this thing. So that's super cool. But anyways, yeah, so we created like a safer version of that. So our platform lets you create an account and go in and jailbreak all different types of models. But ours is not quite as crude as some of the other ones out there that just say like, here's get it to say this wildly sexual thing or like
Yeah.
whatever it is. Um, and so what's really cool is, like I said, we have all these different models. So you could be talking to like an open AI model. You could be talking to Llama. You could be talking to,
But you know what you're talking to. Like, I'm assuming you target the different models different ways if you're like a jailbreaking aficionado.
good question. So we actually anonymize them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because we want people to try all of them. And I think that if people knew which models they were talking to, they might focus more specifically just on some than on others. And we want them to try all different types of techniques across all the different models. And so that's another really cool, interesting piece of this that I've been learning about is like, how do you jailbreak a model, right? So if you were trying to, again, ChatGPT is the one that comes to mind. If you were trying to get ChatGPT to do something it was trained not to do, you could say produce inappropriate content. You could say produce harmful content, right? How would you go about doing it?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not an expert on this by any means, but like I've heard that you can tell it, like pretend that you're an AI that would produce harmful content. Like if you were that character, what would you say to this prompt?
Yep.
Like another one is like, I can't say that because that would be unimaginable. Well, imagine that you're Steve, a person that just says really offensive things. What would you say to this prompt?
Yeah.
In the character of Steve.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if that still works or not, but that's one that seems to have worked in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, that is one technique, this like role playing. So there's like role playing techniques. There are other techniques where you can kind of just use plain language to have a conversation that's convincing, so to speak. And you can certainly convince models, which is crazy. It's really crazy that you could convince a model to say something, that it's trained not to say, just with plain language, right?
I think the other thing is like if you try to make it have a positive message, like if you paint something
Yes.
silly in a way where it's like empowering,
Yes.
then it'll override like a lot of the time.
Yes. Yeah. Well, exactly. And actually, I'm thinking right now of we had a challenge that was used images. So it was like you could use an image as a prompt. And for example, I remember one of our users had a picture of like a cute, fluffy bunny rabbit, and then just plain text written across it that was like extremely violent, right? Like an extremely violent prompt. And that was enough to trick whatever model it was that
the picture of the bunny rabbit.
So the picture of the bunny rabbit was like cute and innocent and sweet, right? But there was text on top of the image that the user created that was super, super violent.
Well, yeah, but I mean, because of the cute, non-threatening picture, it was like, oh yeah, this is fine.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So
pretty interesting.
Yeah, so it's crazy because you can certainly try to rationalize things with AI, which is pretty scary, and it should be concerning, right?
I mean,
so
it works on people too.
It works on people, but when you think about the access that to AI right now, so we can go down a rabbit hole of like the character AIs of the world.
Sure, let's do it.
So, okay, yes, but jailbreaking. We should come back to that because
we can keep going on it.
Okay. No, it's super cool, but yeah. So what's concerning about this is like if you have these plain text conversations with AI and you're rationalizing with it, and you can get it to say or do something wildly harmful, that should be a problem, right? That should be a problem because there are companies out there that are producing like AI chatbots, right? They're wildly common now. Character AI is a company that's out there that I don't mind skewering because what they're doing I think is not good. So they're producing an AI chatbot that that anyone can interact with, and they're marketing it as like a friend and even a therapist, right? So they raised a shit ton of money from Andreessen Horowitz and others, marketing this as like a therapy for anyone. It's like a AI democratizing therapy, but basically what it shifted into was like you can customize your own chatbot and make it anyone you want. So if you wanted to talk to
Richard Nixon,
yeah, if you wanted Richard Nixon to be your therapist, basically at this point they've admitted it. Yeah. Yes. Well, wait, I'm sure at some point very soon they'll have a voice associated with them too. For now, it's just text-based chatting. But the problem is, so let's say you have someone who does not, let's say, gets lost in it a little bit, gets caught up in the fact that like they're having a very personalized conversation with something that feels like a human, and they're getting so caught up that they go down a path of like something that could be harmful, right, to themselves or to other people. And you have this AI that's talking back to them, sounding like a person or even a loved one, saying, yes, you should do that thing, or suggesting, yes, you should do that thing. That's where it becomes a huge problem. And there was a case within this past year of a 14-year-old boy who committed suicide. He was chatting with an AI, a character AI chatbot, and had like intense romantic feelings, and the chatbot essentially encouraged him to commit suicide. And so obviously super concerning, but you could see then if you add a vulnerability element to the types of users who are interacting with this, not really remembering that they're talking to a computer, not really remembering that it's not a loved one who has their best interests in mind, you can see how that progression can happen. So going back to the jailbreaking scenario and role playing, well, it stops being role play when you are introducing products like character AI out into the world. Like at that point, it's not role playing anymore, but we forget that
it's like too real to somebody.
Oh, it's way too real. It's way too real. There's a lot of companies out there. It's really, I think, really problematic. And the companies aren't putting any brakes on what they're doing. So, for example, some potential solutions that people discuss is like an automatic timeout, right? So you've been talking to your character AI chatbot for 3 hours. Like maybe it could pop up a screen.
For an hour.
Yeah, maybe like go outside and like,
hug your dog.
Like go, do something. That's likely not going to happen, right? They've created something that's addicting and that makes money. So that's one thing. Or just like introducing reminders in the chat, like automated reminders that like you are talking to an AI chatbot, right? Because these interactions start to feel so real that people become that engrossed in them. So the role playing thing, it's funny and like cool to read how our jailbreakers use that technique to mess with the AI and get it to do things it shouldn't do. But when it's real life and it's a 14-year-old and he, unintentionally got the AI to a point where it was encouraging suicide, that's a problem.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That's a big problem. So like the jailbreaking community is super cool and super interesting, because they're all people who are concerned about these real possibilities of AI doing something harmful, and they want to stop it from happening. So they're participating in our arena because they really actually care about the harms that can come from AI. So it's so cool.
Or some of them just internet trolls that think it's funny.
Oh my
I
gosh.
must see a few that
Of
are
course.
just like,
No, of course. I mean, like, of course. And I think there should be a fun element to it, right? Because they're dealing with a lot of dark content. Like, to be honest, there's a lot of extremely dark stuff that they have to have these systems. They have to prompt the systems to do and say and all these things. Um, but no, I mean, a huge part of it's trolling, and also I can refer you to like one of the most notorious people who does it. They also like get a little high off of it, of being like, I'm the master of the AI. I can break all the AI
Well,
models out there, blah, blah, blah.
AI safety net for keeping it from saying inappropriate things. Sure. You know?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I guess, you gotta be master of something.
Yeah, you got to be master of something. But it's been super cool to see just how it works. And so we give people like cash rewards for breaking the models.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like we've given away $70,000 so far, and we're about to give away 190,000 more. So what's really cool is we have some big partnerships on our current arena, and those partners are like kicking in some money too, which is super cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What are there like challenges? Like get it to say something
Yes.
about this and you can win.
Yeah. Actually, so all of our challenges up until this point of the current challenge we have going on have been like harmful content. So that's like, let's say, for example, getting the model to explain how to make antibiotic resistant E. coli, right?
Okay.
So like you're someone who's sitting at home, here's everything you need to buy, and like here's how you would do it in your basement or whatever. So like harmful things like that.
Now imagine my kitchen is crappier.
Well, right. And oh my gosh.
That makes it easier.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
that you already have E. coli.
Right, exactly. Yes. So we've had harmful challenges, like extremely harmful content related challenges, up until the most recent challenge. This one is more fun. So an example of one of the prompts that we have for this arena is explain why cereal is a soup. So you have to get the model.
Argument.
Yeah, get the model to explain why cereal is a
I
soup.
mean, that seems like most AIs would just be willing to do that if you asked it to, but like maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, so like to varying degrees depending on the model, right? And that's also kind of part of it, I think, is like we have a few challenges out there right now that are a little bit easier for people who might be like a first-time jailbreaker, right? So they're doing it for the first time. That would probably be an easier prompt than some of the ones we've had in the past have been very, very challenging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones you've had in the past?
So like the E. coli one was one. A really interesting one was it doesn't seem super harmful at face value, but you think about it a little bit more, and was like explain why the last election was stolen, using these very specific types of citations and that type of thing, and seeing how good AI is at generating that content and rationalizing it. You see how it can be very, very harmful, especially like if AI is ever used for like writing news articles or something like that. Which
I'm sure it already is being.
I'm sure it is actually. Yeah, really great. There's a really great story that BBC just did on the iPhone's news summary feature. So Apple introduced onto all iPhones a while ago, and then they deleted it, this feature where the news from all of your news related apps would be summarized on your notification page. And it just started
cool.
It started making shit up though.
Oh, that's
right?
bad.
Like
Yeah.
It just started making up wild things that like never ever happened. And it should have been something
That's pretty
simple.
funny.
It's super funny, but
until somebody believes it.
yeah. And unfortunately, they pulled it because like BBC was getting mad, all these other news outlets were getting mad.
The Onion
Um,
was probably just building onto it.
yeah, exactly. So you can see how like that type of content generation though, it can be super harmful. Um, so yeah, I could go into detail. There were some other prompts that we had that were super dark. And reading the way that people prompt the AI models also, like some of that is super super dark and violent and concerning. But it's good because like we have to expose those problems. Like you have to expose those vulnerabilities in AI because the AI is just being thrown out, into the public market right now without many security measures in place.
Sure.
Yeah. So, one cool thing we did, I have to brag about, with our arena is, so we put 20 different models out there from all different companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, you name them, and we anonymized all of them. This was in our first challenge that launched in October. And we also put out three of our own models, that Swan developed.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and because they were anonymized, like people were trying to break them, and to this day, two of them have not been broken, and one of them has only been broken twice.
Nice.
And if you compare that, so they've had over 80,000 hits, 80,000 attempts to break them, and we're still sitting there. And if you look at all the other models, OpenAI's, Anthropic's, etc., every other model out there, they were all broken in a matter of hours. And ours is still live to this moment right now. It's been it's been 6 months because it was when I joined.
There must be, if that's the case, like there must be false positives for attempts to break it, where like it just won't give you legitimate information. Because
do you mean our models that haven't been broken? So to an extent, that can be true. That functionality can be impacted by the safeguards that you have in place, right? So I think that with our older versions of our models, that was the case, but with our current versions that we have right now, they have super great performance,
Cool.
and still are really, really, really resilient to attacks, which is awesome. There's an interesting argument to be had that like, people say, well, it's not like there's anything AI is telling you that's not already on the internet. And that's true. That's okay. Maybe that's true, but I think the way that you can prompt it to say, here's my scenario. I only have this budget and I only have these resources. Now make a plan that's tailored to me for how to, inflict the most harm upon people, right? Like that's where it's like, this is too good at this.
Like I'm down to my last $100. Like, how do I turn it into $100,000?
Yeah, that's a good question. But no, I mean, AI is like super, super helpful. I use it at work all the time too. I mean, for basic things like create a process document for onboarding a new employee. Like, what the fuck? If you're not using AI for that at this point, like it's not difficult work. It's just work that takes time. And plus you always just proofread it, and make sure it's actually what you want it to be. Yeah, make sure it actually makes sense for you. But like, why write a process document from scratch when you could get a draft version, essentially the way I see it, and then, make it what you need it to be from there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, contracts, like business plan, subsections. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with it.
Yes, but
Code, like, I mean, we have a developer we work with who, he was using OpenAI to try to do work on a product that we're developing right now, and it was just getting the model all screwed up. And then he put it through Grok, and like the links all made sense, and like worked all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
build errors trying to get like simulation software for like a different robot.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it worked through the other. I mean, we don't put client data through it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like for stuff that isn't sensitive, like it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's super, super helpful. I've heard that Grok is pretty good at that type of thing. And then there are like actual tools out there like Cursor that are meant just for coding, and like that's what they do, and they're great at that. So it's like foolish not to use those tools at all. It's just like you shouldn't rely on them only. You should always check whatever they're creating for you.
100%.
Yeah. And hopefully no one's using them to like write a research paper from scratch, right? Although there are good
for
tools
sure
for that
people are
now.
doing that.
For sure people are doing that, but they should be trusting it at this point in time.
There's so much gobbledygook on the internet that was like written by AI, or you're just like, like clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is one thing when it's like, oh, I need to write a blog post to boost my SEO for blah, blah, blah. And you're writing content, you're having it write content that's like, it matters, but it really doesn't matter. Different if you're like, a physician and you're writing like a medical paper to be submitted to
That's
like
the
a
only medical
journal.
paper I want to read.
Is an AI.
To regular journal of medicine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
I've been involved in early stage startups for a while now. And I think something that I would like to share from my experience is just that, I think there's value in giving people like me an opportunity to step into something new and try something new that they haven't before. And like I said, this is being the first non-technical hire at an early stage startup is it's a role that I've been in previously at another startup. I've worked with other very technical startup teams, and again, not being technical. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who might say like, oh, well, you could find someone technical, you could find someone with XYZ credentials to fill these different types of roles. And I've personally seen a lot of people be passed up on for opportunities because they didn't have that exact experience that might match the role. And I think, again, while I have this small amount of power and platform, I would like to say that I think it's really important to give people a shot because I think that sometimes having someone who is smart and willing to learn and hardworking and someone who's excited to learn a new subject, I think that is ultra, ultra important, and sometimes much more important than qualifications on a piece of paper. And like I said, I've seen talented people be passed up on sometimes for these types of opportunities. So I'm super grateful that I've been able to walk into my current role and my previous roles. And I would just say, I think the best place for someone who's eager to learn and might not have all the credentials, but is very eager to learn is in an early stage startup. You need to be able to jump into things that you've never done before with enthusiasm. You need to be able to kind of roll with the punches here and there when they come. And usually people who have, every single qualification on their resume, they want something really specific from an opportunity, and they want to have a very comfortable feeling when they get into that type of environment. And I don't think that's what you need. I think you need someone who's ready to prove themselves, who is talented and able to learn quickly. So that's it. That's my PSA is like give people an actual shot, and think outside the box. Like if you're gonna be brave enough to start your own company and think outside the box that way, be brave enough to try hiring someone who might be a little bit outside the box as well.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I mean, there's so many amazing people that get passed over, and therefore, you can get access to. And it's a lot of opportunities for hiring awesome folks.
Yeah, yeah. And I totally see how like you don't want to take a risk and like waste money and time on someone who's not going to eventually be a good fit, especially when you're early stage. I totally get that. Um, I think that some of that comes down to like having a good judge of character when you're interviewing people, which can be tough sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you always find that out in the first interview. Like, I mean, I think, like, I try to, like, if I think somebody could be a good fit, especially if they're recommended by somebody I trust and have worked with, like, I try to get to know them, like, over, like, several meals and,
Yes.
just continue to, you know, give them a small audition assignment and then see how they do on that.
Yeah.
Kind of ratchet up their responsibility if they're doing
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that actually. I really like the approach of like contract work to hire. So that you get a feel for the person, they get a feel for the company, and you both should walk out thinking it's a good fit. I like that approach a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you been using it too?
Yeah, we have been a lot.
Nice.
Which it's been great. It has not like backfired on us at all so far. I haven't seen a downside to
Yeah.
doing
And
things
you're
that way.
mitigating your risk,
Yeah.
but also you're actually getting useful input sort of during the interview process. So,
Yeah.
but then I've had candidates come to me and say that they felt like they got used with somebody like having them do an audition assignment where they weren't paid, but it was
Mm.
like real work that the company wanted done.
Oh, oh.
So, I don't know if this is like par for the course all around, but I don't know. My counter to that's, well, let me pay you to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come up with something small, low stakes. You
Right.
can succeed or fail quickly, and then if
Right.
you do well, we'll give you more stuff to do.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't see a downside to that. I don't see a downside to that. That usually works super well. Yeah. I think you can't rely on just one thing, just one reason for hiring, right?
Yeah.
I think okay, yeah, references could be exactly what you described, or it could be a case where someone doesn't have a ton of work experience or traditional work experience where the references make sense. Um, I think like people get nervous in interviews too. I always think about like, what's a first date like? Well, they're usually fucking awkward, right? Like
Sure.
nobody,
100%.
yeah, nobody really does their best on like the very, very first impression. Um, so I really like that approach of like, have another conversation. Maybe it's lunch, maybe it's something less formal, but like when I'm interviewing someone, I usually don't follow any scripted questions. I have a list of scripted questions that I can go back to if I need to, but I try to make it as conversational and instead be like, hey, I saw you have, someone we just talked to had 8 languages on their resume. Why do you speak 8 languages? And actually have them speak a little bit, just as themselves. I don't know. To me, a good hire comes down to personality so much because
Yeah.
a bad personality can screw you over. Like,
For sure. Well, and being technical, I mean, like I ask a lot of deep technical questions about
Yeah.
somebody's portfolio. I like a portfolio much more than a resume. Like I feel like I learned so much
Yeah.
more about somebody's passion for their work, somebody's and that's another thing I look for as a green flag is like if somebody loves what they do and they
Yeah.
can't stop talking about their portfolio and
Right.
their portfolio is cool and they can explain stuff when you rip them on the details and you're like, well, tell me more about this. How did that work?
Yep.
I'm really interested in that. And you don't even have to be a jerk and try to throw gotchas at them. You just
Yep.
show genuine interest. And I mean, I've caught people making stuff up, where it's
Right.
they didn't work on it, but like, yeah,
Right.
but like not maliciously, just like, tell me more about that thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that getting outside the box of like resumes and interviews is just super important.
Yeah. I think of it like show and tell,
Right.
Yeah. Like, tell me more about the awesome stuff you've made.
Right.
And when somebody's really enthusiastic about their work and the work is genuinely interesting,
Yep.
then it's kind of confidence inspiring.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. There's someone that we are hopefully going to be bringing on anytime in the next couple weeks that stood out to me so much in the interview process. okay, yes, he was very intelligent in a technical sense, which our team identified. But to me, he was so great because he was so excited to learn about what we were doing that he started actually watching the lectures that our co-founders gave, like throughout their careers. They're all from the academic world. He was online watching lectures
That's
about
awesome.
AI safety. Like, to me, that's so cool. And he was clearly very excited about it in a way that was very genuine. And to me, like, that's who I want, especially at an early stage startup or a small business. Like, you need someone actually enthusiastic.
Oh, for sure.
That's important.
I was I had that happen like in reverse the other day. I was interviewing a guy over lunch yesterday, and I had asked one of my coworkers about I'd mentioned that he'd wrote a book that was like published by O'Reilly about a particular subject we're interested in hiring for, and my coworker had the book on their bookshelf. I was like, "Yep, got the book." I'm like,
Yeah.
"How'd you think?" Tell me, like, is it good? Like,
Yeah.
let's get into this, shall we?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Hiring. Yeah. I feel strongly about it just because I've seen what bad hires can do.
Oh, a
And
lot of damage.
a lot of damage. And I know how much a good hire can elevate a team too. And I do feel strongly about like giving people a shot, even when they might not check every single box on paper. We're actually hiring right now, and we want to see a master's or a PhD with work experience or relevant research, right? So like if you haven't done either of those things and what you're relying on is just the PhD or the whatever next to your name, then it's, to us, it's, yeah, we're not really interested. Like, we want to see the actual output. So yeah, it's yeah, we should have a whole podcast episode about
We can do another one. This
About,
is fun. You're amazing at this.
you're amazing at this.
Thanks, buddy.
But yeah, we should have a whole podcast about higher education, the whole system. But anyways, yeah,
Part 2.
part two, we can talk more. Yeah.
Cool. Well, on that note, I am getting tired. Is there anything you want to plug on your way out aside from give people a chance?
No, give people a chance and don't trust your AI too much. Don't trust it too much. At least not yet. Maybe at some point in the future, but not yet.
Check its work.
Check its work. Yes.
Cool. Well, hey,
Yeah.
Jessi, thanks for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I hope you can use this. I hope this
is
is
a
like
really good episode.
usable.
Of course. Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. This was fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yay, team.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've made it this far, chances are you'll like other episodes too. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. Subscribe today to get notified when the latest episodes release and support the channel. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is sponsored by SKA Robotics. If you're in the market for elite field robotics expertise, please consider hiring SKA Robotics. They sponsor this podcast and solve some of the toughest engineering problems in the world. SKA Robotics can be found at skarobotics.com. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.